Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I have Michelle Alexander and Daniel David Stewart with me. Hey, you two.
Hi.
All right, we just did a fantastic interview about their film Blowout, which was a short film that took home Best Short Film Experimental at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2019. Proud to say it's also in the Discover Indie Film TV series. So if you want to watch it, you should watch it. It's so good. Go to Amazon Prime Video, any way you can get there. Search for Discover Indie Film and watch Season 3, Episode 2. Although we were getting so many viewers, of course, I think you heard this, that they stopped letting us be free included with Prime. So might as well just buy Season 3 for $7.99 and watch all 10 episodes. I think it's like 24 films and 10 episodes. You can't do better than that.
Hey, you can. It's great.
It is, and they're all good. Handpicked, I think it says like handpicked from the festival circuit. So anyhow, watch their film. But now we're going to hear Michelle and Daniel answer the Discover Indie Film 4 questions, which are favorite films of all time, an underrated film, an overrated film, and a lesser-known film that people should seek out. And I'm just going to shut up and let you two start answering.
Oh, I'm going first. So which one do you want me to start with?
The first question.
First question. Favorite film of all time?
Yeah. You can go up to 3 if you want.
I will go up to 3. I'm going to start with I got to start with Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It's Edgar Wright, classic. Did not get the respect it deserved when it came out, and it is just one of I hope it's a cult classic for as long as time goes on. It's just incredibly directed and made and all that stuff. And then for second film, I think I'm going to go with Holy Motors, which is a Leo Carac's film. That's a French film, and it is absolutely bonkers, and at that time really kind of enlivened my belief in film after I'd been seeing kind of a lot of stuff that didn't jolt me or excite me or wake me up, and that film really woke me up and made me excited for what film could do. And then I'm going to go with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, because I think that that's just one of the best written films of all time, and so incredibly directed by Michel Gondry, and I don't know. That film really was a big tentpole for me when I was younger and wanted to get in the business, and I saw that film and it just broke my brain at the time. And gosh, there's just so many other films I could say, but I'll go with those 3. And I wish I could give honorable mentions, but those are the ones.
Those are 3 wonderful. Well, actually, I haven't seen Holy Motors, so now I've got some homework to do. But yes, Scott Pilgrim is an amazing little film, and I'll tell you, we showed it to our kid when she was 12, and she loved it. And I think we've watched it more than once. So I'm hoping it has legs through many generations, because that film is just remarkably good and entertaining.
Yeah, it's really just one of the best.
And Eternal Sunshine, my God.
Oh my God, it's beautiful.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard when I look at any of these directors, that make these films, because I go, gosh, there's so many Charlie Kaufman films that could be a favorite film of mine, or, so.
But that one's got romance, and it might be the best film about love ever made. That's hyperbole, but I mean, my God.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And amazingly acted. Holy crap.
Oh, yeah. Just holy crud.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna use all 3 too, and I'm gonna say Waiting for Guffman is one of my favorites, hands down. I think it's deceptively simple, and it's so good every single time. And it's just like some of the best comedic performances you will ever see.
It's rolling river.
It's just incredible. Get Out. I think Get Out, for me, especially being such a horror buff and writing horror, I think it revolutionized horror. I think it gave it horror has always been this tool to approach social issues, but it's usually been so buried in the narrative that unless you're really savvy, you wouldn't pick up on it. And this like brought that idea of social horror, and that so many social things are so horrifying, but are also kind of funny and ridiculous at the same time. I just think it's brilliant. I think it's so, so brilliant. And Being John Malkovich. Being John Malkovich was the first movie I saw where it was so weird and over the top, but also so sad and so deep at the same time. I feel like it opened my eyes to being able to marry those extremes. Like, as a writer, I was like, oh my God, this person's doing it. And it's not just like some weird art house film. It actually had such this like commercial vibe to it that was so appealing for so many people. And it proved that like you could serve up something super strange and we just all got it. Like, most of the world loves that film.
Yeah,
we just got it.
Spike Jonze also just does an insane job with that. Like, to be able to see that material and have that be Spike Jonze's first feature and Charlie Kaufman's first like mainstream. Like, it's absolutely insane to think what they did as a first feature duo together on that.
Yeah,
it's insane, and the moments where they pulled off their weirdest moments are the ones that resonated the most. I mean, obviously is some executive somewhere was like, this scene where every person's head is John Malkovich's head and they just keep repeating his last name over and over. You got to take that one out because that's just going to turn everyone on. And that's everyone who's ever seen it. That's probably the greatest thing.
Yeah. Like, the trust that was put into the production of that film, especially at the time it was made, is just extraordinary.
Yeah, that's a really good enlivener, I think, for any artists out there. It's like, if that film could be made with a first-time feature director who had done mostly skate videos before that, amazing skate videos to be sure, some of my favorite skate videos of all time, then it's possible. Anything is possible.
And amazing music videos. My God, some of the stuff he did there.
Oh, yeah, and the music videos, obviously.
And Malkovich, I mean, by the way, I want to mention, when you mentioned Waiting for Guffman, I still all the time say to people, I say, you people are asshole people. And almost nobody gets it, you know? I feel like that's an underappreciated, you know, I love Best in Show, but I think more people have seen it. Like, Guffman maybe doesn't get the love it deserves.
I think that's the thing. Is like, if
Guffman and A Mighty Wind might be my two favorite. Of all those
films. but the thing is, like, the package of Waiting for Guffman is so simple. Like, this storyline is so insanely simple that I think some people might read the description and write it off. Like, Best in Show sounds more flashy and more exciting, but it's like watching an ensemble that really feed off each other comedically do their thing. Like, there's nothing like that. And examples of that in film are so few and far between. Like, it's just, come on.
Yeah, you're right. It's like, you don't see a lot of ensemble films like that. You see a lot of TV shows that you see people playing off each other. And I think this also shows how much our brains get each other, because I love all three of those films. And I think you like the two of the films I mentioned, but you haven't seen the other ones. So there you go.
And I don't want to give Get Out short shrift, because I just, it's
incredible. Yeah.
And also, like you said, all three of your picks are daring films that, I mean, when you look at Get Out, the fact that it was a success is amazing.
Yeah, we were talking about how, I don't know if you remember the trailer, but the trailer for Get Out is so not the film. It's highly comedic. It's like Jordan Peele, improv Jordan Peele. It's not the dark depths the film goes to, but I feel like, weirdly, that was such a smart play on the marketing team side, because they went, this is why people love Jordan Peele, and we don't want to scare anybody off. And so I even went to the theater going like, I think he's so funny. I want to see what this is. And instantly you're like, whoa, why is this not funny? Like, where are we going? But it makes me, so my manager, her and I were talking about Get Out, and she's like, you know, I have these cousins who are very like non-political. Like, they stay out of that arena. Like, they've got some very conservative beliefs. And she's like, they watched that film thinking it was like a true horror. And they left going, God, I love that film. They didn't get any of the political undertones or the social undertones, but they loved the film. And to me, I'm like, that's so special and that's so important. That somebody who on the surface would never agree with the messages of the film, some of those messages are getting in those people, even if it's subconsciously. Like, I just think, oh my God, he deserves all the awards for the writing of that.
And they enjoyed a film with black leads, which doesn't happen all the time. And I'll add, I want to share that
also during a horror genre film specifically too, you know.
During COVID, my partner, she had never watched Key and Peele, and I'm a huge Key and Peele fan. So during COVID, I think we found it on Hulu, and I said, okay, you got to watch Key and Peele now. And as much as we all thought that Jordan Peele was like really, really funny, there is horror throughout that TV series.
There is.
All the time. Because actually I'm a huge fan of Us also. I think Us might even be a better film, but it just blows me away what he pulled off there. But yeah, watching it after seeing his two features and also loving the film Keanu. Gotta love those two guys with Keanu, with the kitten. But there are so many, you just see him teeing up his skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, like getting better and better. And you see, there's always been this depth to, I think when I saw Get Out, it like really reminded me, there's a depth to what Jordan Peele does in his comedy. That there's always this biting truth to the kind of comedy he does. And so making Get Out, it felt like wild, but also like weirdly unsurprising because he's always been so intellectual within his comedy of how he does it. Whereas it feels like Keegan-Michael Key who's also amazing, is more kind of freewheeling and like the fun performer guy. And Jordan Peele seems the more heady guy, you know.
For sure. Yeah. Although I know Jordan has said it a million times that Keegan's his favorite actor. Like he just loves writing exactly. for him. Yeah. All right. Well, question 2 is a film that is underrated.
So we actually have already talked about this film. I think Scott Pilgrim is underrated. I feel like I saw it when it came out, and I was blown away by how much I loved it. And I was shocked that people either didn't get it or didn't love it. And I know it's more celebrated now, and it's having like a resurgence, which is amazing. But I feel like so much of how we choose what we watch these days is we go online. And there's still so much out there about how it's not this special film. And like, it's like the shots that are in it, the colors that they use throughout, like the performances, the fact that they have a lead that is the most unlikable dude, and you still like root for him through the whole thing. I love that movie.
Oh yeah, I've watched that movie probably 10 times. Yeah. I think that film is like, just from a filmic aspect, like if you asked me what was the best directing of that year, it's Scott Pilgrim. Like for me, I just think that there's an energy to his filmmaking that is present in everything he's done, from Shaun of the Dead to, you know, all of the Cornetto trilogy, which is also amazing. It feels like he's having fun making the film. And you've seen that in his interviews. You see him as a person, and he just seems like a guy who loves film and loves having fun. And you feel that when you watch it. You have fun when you watch his films because you feel him having fun behind the camera. And that's such a breath of fresh air, which, God, there's so many films you see where it feels like the person making it is having a miserable time making it. And it's beautiful, but it's like a dirge. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, and stylistically, I think it's widely imitated at this point too, right? Like it launched 1,000 ships, so even if people don't know it, you know,
probably the best. It might be my favorite comic book film ever made. That's actually like emulating what it feels like to read a comic book, you know?
Yeah, I think like if you want to direct and you want a masterclass in transitions, that's the movie to watch. Like it's just
and comedy and pacing and like, there's just so much of there's just so much about it. It's so
and
good.
The film industry has been trying to. They know that video games are kicking their ass, right? Video games make more money than films, even when theaters were open. And they've been trying to imitate video games and inspire, but Scott Pilgrim is the world's greatest marriage of video game and cinema.
Yes, hands down.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
For sure.
So it was hard when I think of an underrated film. I think of, there are plenty of critical films. Like Holy Motors is a film that probably not a lot of mainstream people know, but is a still beloved film. And if you look at like many critics' lists of the last however many years, they would put it like near the top of films. So it makes me go, okay, it's not underrated. It's just underseen. But there is a film that I love that I feel like is kind of both, which is there's a film called Phoenix, which is I have it up here. Let me just bring it up so that I can tell the director and everything else. It's Christian Petzold, who's this amazing, I believe he's Austrian director, and Nina Haas, who he's collaborated with a ton of times. She's a great actress. It's this just beautiful post-wartime drama that is so pulpy, and it's about a woman who has been disfigured in during the war and is believed to be dead, but she gets reconstructive surgery to her face and ends up coming back to her old hometown where she meets up with her husband before the war, and she's trying to figure out if her husband sold her off to be taken away by people to go to the camps, or if he did really love her. But he doesn't think that she's his wife. He just thinks that she's someone that looks like his wife that he can use to get her family's money. And so the whole film is her knowing that she's his wife and him not knowing that she's his wife, and her trying to figure out if he really loved her or if he sold her off. And it is this just beautiful, sad, strange little concept of a movie that is like this slow motion. I described it after I saw it as like this slow motion pitch to this final moment of the movie, which just like hits a home run out of the park with this final moment. It was like this low build, and then in the last moment, it's just like, boom, you just cry, and then it's credits, and you're like, I was so affected by that film, and I was so shocked that it wasn't kind of circulated more within indie communities or things like that. It's a film called Phoenix, very, very good. It came out in 2014 from Germany.
I'm just going to mention it again, like the concept that one character has information that others don't, that's pretty Hitchcockian.
Yeah, it actually is very, that film is very Hitchcockian and romantic and sad and frustrating and bleak, but also beautiful. And that's the kind of films that like make me bubble, I guess. For sure. Did it get any, it should have, my old joke every Oscar season is like the best foreign language film is going to be the Holocaust movie. Did it get any love at that? No, but that's why I'm kind of recognizing it as an underrated film, because after I saw it, I'm like, this is a film that deserves to be like in contention for the awards and all that stuff. And I feel like more of Christian Petzold's last couple films have been more widely recognized than that one. But her performance as well, both of their performances, the two lead actors in it, are just incredible. And for anyone out there who's listening that maybe go watch foreign film, man. It's just the best. Like, obviously, it's becoming more mainstream with Parasite winning Best Picture and stuff like that, which also was this close to making my favorite films of all time list. But that's just like you're missing out on some of the best acting, writing, directing in the entire world. Oh man, bummer. There is actually another film I would have put on my. Oh man, that's a bummer. Okay, it's all good.
You can say it. There's no strict rules. I mean,
there's a movie called The Separation by Asghar Farhadi, who's one of my favorite filmmakers, and that might be one of my top 3 favorite films of all time. And it's amazing for all the reasons I just said. And Asghar Farhadi is really incredible at taking a really small moment or concept, like just some big tiny moment in a personal life, and expanding it to talk about religion, class, sex, life, all these things from this tiny scenario. It's like you're watching a play, and all the acting is just unreal. That's just one of, I think, the best films ever made. This film called The Separation.
All right. We got to move on, I was going to mention, I think people give German cinema short shrift because, of course, England and then France we're big fans of. Every once in a while we get something from Italy or Spain. But the Germans do some really interesting stuff. And because of the language issues, and I think even the dubbing is tough because, like, the language is so different, the dubbing matches a lot worse. Because it's not a Latin based. But anyway, you're both wonderfully nice people, so I hope you understand that this next question, what film is overrated? You're not saying it's a bad film. You're just saying it could be a wonderful film that you love, but the adoration it receives might be outsized. So do you have one for overrated?
Oh, man, that's hard because I mentioned this with Michelle earlier, which is like I just like to be a fan of film. You know,
you can skip
for
it.
the most part.
Many people have said. Okay.
I'm not going to skip. I do think there are some films that like to. But that's a whole other story.
You wouldn't be alone on that one either.
Yeah. Okay, so mine that I think is overrated. I feel like this is going to get me a bunch of hate mail. I think this film is not a bad film. I just feel like, actually similar to Daniel, the way it was portrayed in its reviews for why it was good bothers me. So my film is Ready or Not. It is a horror comedy. There are moments that are super fun. The acting is fantastic, but a lot of the reviews touted this film as a feminist film, as a feminist horror film. And it really irked me because I think it's important to distinguish between a female-led film and a feminist film. And this was female-led, but there was actually no, like we talked about Get Out, like that amazing marriage of like fun horror and social message. And this was just a horror. The arc wasn't crafted super well. There wasn't like a lot of character revelation. And to me, if you're going to dub something feminist, it needs to cathartically serve women. Like, that's the point. And it felt like, I remember being in the theater going, I feel like this was written by a guy. It just has this vibe to me of being written by a guy. And I didn't know anything about the filmmakers until afterwards. And I was like, yes, I was correct. This does, like the words coming out of her mouth didn't feel like the way a woman would react. She suddenly knew how to wield like a massive shotgun, even though she's never touched a gun in her life. Like, it just felt like a throwback to the way horror used to portray women. Unfortunately, back in the past, they just murder them or like they would be virgins and someone would swoop in and save them. This was a woman saving herself, but like it's not a feminist horror. And that always irked me.
Yeah. Actually, you bring up, you remind me of this wonderful actress filmmaker I know who moved back to Australia, but we would do a fun Oscar podcast where we do our predictions. Then after the Oscars, we look at how we did. And she was genius at recognizing, like she even, I love The Favorite, and we're discussing The Favorite, and she said, it may say it's written by a woman, but I don't know, all those, so much of it feels masculine. And then I read a Yorgos, and then I had to call, in the follow-up, I said, so I just read a Yorgos interview where he said he pretty much rewrote the entire script. And the point, you can tell when that point of view is male, is traditionally male.
Which is like, look, men, I still think men should be able to write women.
And I still love The Favorite. I still think
I love it. Yeah. But it actually is a dude's interpretation of what's hot about women having sex.
It's like we don't, like, just because a film is led by a woman should never be a reason to call it a feminist film. It's actually kind of like downgrading the film. Because if you think of like a film led by a dude, it doesn't get a special consideration because it's led by a dude. So...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and Ready or Not is a fun film with good jump scares.
Yes.
We've got a now 14-year-old who's addicted to horror, so I've seen way more horror in the last 3 years than I have my whole life. And Ready or Not is a good horror film that's in no way feminist. You know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot more than a woman, but there are men who think as long as the woman kills men, it's feminist. Like, that's...
Yes.
The woman wins at the end of the day. She kills the dudes. Like, okay, that's such a... If that's your idea of what feminism is, that is such a low grade. It's such a, like, concentrated
I think
version.
that's my point, is, like, we need to dive... We're smarter than that. Like, we can dive deeper. Do you know what I mean? To dub something feminist.
And I think we talk about this all the time because we talk about female-led... features right now, like women-led features that are specifically genre and horror, whether that comedy horror or like whatever, and there's so few of them who've been given the opportunity to do it at such a high level that it's like, it's really frustrating because I'm wondering how many incredible, actually feminist, like deconstructive films we're missing.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm pretty sure Ready or Not wouldn't pass the Bechdel test. Right?
No, not at all.
I don't think there's one scene where she's not concerned with her fiance or something
or the marriage
else.
itself.
At least the favorite passes the Bechdel test, so there is that, you know.
Yeah.
Not that the Bechdel test is everything.
No, but it is valuable to a certain extent.
For sure.
Anyway,
For sure. All right. Well, the last one is lesser known film that people should seek out.
Okay, so I'm going to go first, and I have to admit, I haven't watched this, but it's been on my list of things to see forever, and so I'm like, whoever's listening to this, let's all get on this movie and watch it together. So it's called Rubber. It's a French film. It was made in 2010, and it's about a car tire that comes to life with the power to make people explode. And it goes on a murderous rampage through the Californian desert. So it's an English language film made by the French, and it's about an inanimate object that just goes crazy. So I have like mad respect. And apparently it was made on a really low budget because literally the monster is a real car tire that just rolls through the desert. Yeah.
That sounds rad. You should do, I don't know if it's on Amazon, but like, don't they have like those viewing party settings now?
Yeah.
On like Prime? I don't know.
Yeah.
That sounds very cool.
Yeah. What's yours?
Okay, so I'm going to take this moment to mention another film which could have made any of these lists, which could have made my underrated list, could have made my whatever, which is, I'm going to say, a movie called Take Shelter, which is a Jeff Nichols film starring Michael Shannon and Jessica Chastain, giving two of my favorite performances of their career. Michael Shannon should have won the Oscar for Best Actor that year, in my opinion, as well as Tilda Swinton and We Need to Talk About Kevin. But that's a whole other discussion. But Take Shelter. It's an amazing film about a man who is starting to have apocalyptic visions in a small kind of like Rust Belt town, and he can't tell if the visions are real or if he's slowly going crazy. And so he starts building a storm shelter in his backyard, and it starts ruining his personal life, his professional life, like every single aspect of his life. But he's doing it because he's seen these things and he truly believes in it. And we can't tell as the audience if any of it is real or not until, the last few seconds of the film. And it's a really just beautifully done film, and his performance is outrageously good. So I'm going to say that.
Excellent. Yeah, I love that you mentioned Michael Shannon because such a force. And yet I'm going to throw in my little player hating again of the Oscars and point out that like he gets ignored for probably a performance like that. And then his Shape of Water performance, which was pretty much one-dimensional, like he gets nominated for that.
Yeah, compared to what he can do. Like, I don't know if you're watching Nine Perfect Strangers right now. Like, it's a bit of a strange show, but his performance in it is just astounding.
It's on our list, but that's coming out weekly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we always wait till it's done because we want to binge.
Yeah, it just gets all done. Michael Stuhlbarg's another one of those actors who's just amazing in everything he touches. I think of that because he was my favorite performance in Shape of Water. So, anyway, yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Good list.
Thank you.
Love the list. And it was always fun discussing film.
Yeah, thank you.
And I will now mention to people again, so now you've heard the films that Michelle and Daniel love, so you should watch their film. Go to Amazon Prime Video and go to Discover Indie Film. Just search for Discover Indie Film. And I think I didn't mention in the beginning, but get Prime on a big TV somehow. Don't watch it on a little thing.
Yes.
And horrified. I've watched a 13-year-old sit there in front of a 55-inch TV watching Netflix on her phone in front of a turned-off television. I'm like, oh boy, cinematography might be dead in 30 years. But anyway, dear listeners, go to Discover Indie Film on Amazon Prime Video. Grab season 3, and in episode 2, you'll see Michelle and Daniel's film Blowout. It's absolutely a fantastic movie. You'll love it. I guarantee you'll love it. If you don't, you can message us and start a debate. And we didn't even bring up the film festival, but Blowout won awards at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival. Oh wait, I'm not looking at my list. If you want to learn more about Discover Indie Film, the TV series, and the podcast that accompanies it, go to discoverindiefilm.com. And for social media, it's at DIFWins. And yes, Blowout, their film, won Best Short at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in November 2019. And there's one coming in November 2021. And you can learn more at ShermanOaksFF.com. And on social media, it's at ShermanOaksFF. And that festival has a sister in June called Film Invasion Los Angeles. FilmInvasionLA.com. On social media, it's at FilmInvasionLA. I have now completed my contract with myself to mention all these things. Although what I didn't mention, you guys, it's funny. Now I like saying things after the spiel because I talked to someone, a dude in Nashville, and he was like, you know what, you should, I shouldn't call him a dude in Nashville because in case he listens. John Gower, amazing musician and filmmaker, said you should always have stuff after the spiel so that people listen to your spiel because otherwise they'll just stop during the spiel. But oddly enough, I'm glutton for punishment and we're starting a third event, but I can't handle a festival, so we're going to do a monthly movie night in 2022 at Whitefire Theater called THC Cinema.
Oh,
films
cool.
that are amazing films that are even better if you get a little high at home and then safely take an Uber to the theater. What can I say? We get so many trippy films. I was like, you know what? It'd be fun to have a festival devoted to this, but another festival would kill me. So I'm thinking one night, once a month would be doable.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Such a fun idea,
yeah. Clearly in the next 5 years there's going to be tons of weedy festivals, but we got THC Cinema grabbed, so
Yeah.
so that's so THCcinema.com and at THC Cinema on all the social media outlets. So what do you know? You can free tickets if you follow it. I don't know why I just said that. All right, well, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Daniel, for taking the time to. And I'm glad that there's other people who enjoy talking about movies at length.
Thank you. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone, for listening.